at some point, it felt like I needed to make a decision before they pushed me out.
Full icon energy, working the angles, 1, 2, 3. You got that look to a T. Full icon energy, 1, 2, 3.
Welcome to Side Hustle, a show dedicated to exploring all the ways people are making extra money on the side and how sometimes that side hustle can become a full-blown career. I am your host and chief business correspondent, Taylor Young. And this week, I am so excited to introduce Marsha Barnes. Marsha, thank you so much for joining us on Side Hustle.
Thank you for having me.
So I wanted to start off with how I personally found out about you. I was on assignment in Camp North End, and I walked past this bus. It was beautiful, super cute. Hopefully we can, there it is, the finance bar. Tell us about the bus and what you do.
So the finance bar, the bus, it was created to be an office / classroom. So back in 2014, I was working for the bank. I love financial education. I have a passion for teaching. My son at the time was headed to college, and I was like, how can I come up with a clever way to be able to go around to some local high schools in the Charlotte area, also for colleges, and educate the youth on the importance of financial literacy, basically before they go out into the world. At the time, I was just not willing to invest into a brick and mortar because for someone like me, I talk to people about their finances every single day. But also as a smart business owner, I wasn't willing to take the risk of investing into a brick and mortar space or an office space because I just didn't know what the return on the investment would be back then and as of yet. But also back in 2014, if anyone remembers, food trucks were booming in Charlotte. Not only food trucks, but fashion boutiques. Everyone had everything inside of either a truck or a bus. So I realized, well, if they can put food on a truck, I can put an office in a bus. So I began just exploring areas, Googling online to find out where can I find a bus or a truck that would fit the idea that I had in my mind at the time. I landed on this individual. I think he stayed out in Concord. He was getting rid of a bus. It was intended on being something that his wife would use while he was a pilot. So his wife stayed at home to feed their goats. That was their plan, to cut off the top of the bus. She would be able to take her rake or whatever, get hay off of it and feed their goats. Well, they got pregnant. So they smashed that idea and he was like, I have it for sale. And if you want it, you can buy it. I begged my husband. I literally begged him and he was like, it's not good right now. Our son is headed to college. It's not a good investment. We shouldn't do it. I said, listen, if we purchase the bus, I'll wait to have the bus designed. I just need to get it off his hand. And I did the exact opposite of what I promised my husband would do. Once I got it, it just so happens one of my sorority sisters, she's an architect, so she knew everything that we needed to do to make it out of a bus inside. I had it wrapped, and the rest is history.
It's so cute inside. It looks extremely cozy and the
Thank
perfect
you.
spot to kind of learn about finances.
Yeah.
So I know that this started off as a side hustle for you.
It did.
While you were working for the bank, what was that like going from corporate America to then starting your own business?
Well, what's interesting is I never had the intentions on leaving the bank. It was just my idea whenever I could either be on PTO or had spare time on the weekends to take this bus around again to schools, to colleges to educate youth on it. So it was a balancing act, but the bus picked up steam. Like it went national. People were like, who is this girl that has now put finances on the bus? So I really didn't have a long window of time to have to quit the bank because I got so busy. But the idea spanned, while I had the idea of teaching youth, many major corporations had the idea for me to come in to teach their employees about the importance of financial education. But I'll also add, the idea that I had in my mind about going to public schools didn't work because while I was trying to reach out to principals to come to these schools, I was not getting responses. I was bummed about that. One principal finally reached back out to me, and I cannot remember who the school was, but he said, listen, this is how the process goes. I'm going to explain to you why you just can't bring the bus to campus. We would love for you to come, but based on North Carolina regulations, students have to be in class for a certain amount of minutes for their curriculum to be what it needs to be in state guidelines. I totally understood. Now, I was able to participate Many people may know, I think it's called Discovery Day, Career Discovery Day. It's something that our mayor has every single year. I went out to that career day. I took the bus out there. But essentially, ever since 2014, the bus has been utilized to go around to either major corporations or either I have gone to educate people on the importance of financial education. And then probably after a year and a half after the launch of the Finance Bar, I had to quit my job.
Wow.
So I had to make a decision very, very quickly, which I didn't expect.
And I think it's interesting that this idea kind of started with the thought of teaching high school kids going
Yes.
into college. Because I think back of when I was in high school, I
Mhm.
mean, we didn't learn about credit cards, about
Yeah.
investing, about saving. So was that a push for you as your son was in high school?
Yeah, it was definitely a push.
Yeah.
Now there are more schools and more states where financial education is being taught.
Mhm.
But it was a push because I had to make up my own curriculum. But I knew the importance of, like, how does my son know about finances when he's going to college? Somebody has to teach them that. Or it could be, it could end up very badly. So no one was teaching it. No one was talking about it, which is why I believe the Finance Bar gained a lot of steam at the time. But it definitely was a delicate balance.
Yeah.
Because going from my thought was to teach youth about this to teaching adults about it, but quickly realizing, to your point, many of these youths were never taught. They're just at these jobs trying to figure out how their finances should work along the way, but not necessarily being traditionally taught about them. Yeah.
And with every side hustle,
Mhm.
you have to make money.
Yes.
How do you make money with the Finance Bar?
Oh, so the Finance Bar has 3 angles. One, we have financial therapy clients. So I have individuals and couples that I work with. The second way that we make money is by way of the Finance Bar Members Club, which is an online membership. These could be people that they just don't have the money to be able to invest into financial therapy, or it could be individuals, they don't necessarily need hand-holding, but they do need some level of accountability. But then I also speak a lot. I do keynotes. I do brand deals for several corporations. So those are the main 3 ways that the Finance Bar makes money.
And I know for a lot of Americans, finances and money is
Yeah.
an overwhelming topic. And I'm going to give you a chance to brag about yourself here.
Yeah.
Why go the financial expert route? Why you?
Yeah, I would say, coming from the bank, I'll tell you a quick story. I remember being at work and I was in learning and development. And I remember at the time watching people on their breaks, listening to people on the phone with creditors trying to crack a deal to make their next payment on whatever it may be. These are people that worked at the bank. So money is not an issue of the haves and the have-nots, or we assume what people make because of where they work. This is an issue because people run into different things throughout life. Either you're not making enough, you're not earning enough, and your expenses, are weighing on you. Either you could be helping someone in your family. So that passion and hearing people at my job was one wake-up call for me. But then number 2, my mother, that had been at a company for over 20 plus years, she was laid off at the same time around when I had this idea. My mom has always been a very frugal lady. And it doesn't matter if she has money or not. She's always going to be the one to go to the sale rack. She's always going to pick up the sales paper at the grocery store. She's always going to be the one that, even if call waiting does exist, she doesn't understand, why do I have to have people holding while I'm on the phone with another person? She's not going to invest in all of these things because she understands the importance of being financially well, not rich, not wealthy, but being able to care for yourself. So when she was laid off. My best friend was laid off from her job at a bank. So it was almost all of these whispers that I was getting, like, how do I pair this together? So then I started thinking, like, I can be the one to teach this. And quite honestly, it wasn't about me becoming a financial expert. It just happened. Really, people would, my first certification was in financial education. That was one. Then I would start to talk to people and I would hear them say things like, I make enough money. I just don't understand where my money goes. But so it was more of an internal issue. Maybe I was told when I was young that I wasn't good enough. So the reason that I feel like I have to spend a lot of money to make myself appear to be good enough is because my mom or dad told me that I wasn't good enough. That pushed me to go get my certification in financial social work. And then it got deeper. And then I got during COVID, I said, let me use my time wisely. Kansas State, I went and got my certification in financial therapy. So I became a financial expert by happenstance, my career at the bank and then going back to research and study all of these things to get a better understanding around the idea that I had to educate individuals on personal finance, the youth. This is not just a dollar and cents issue. These are also mental and emotional issues.
Yeah,
that
money is
people deal with.
extremely emotional.
It's extremely emotional because if it were not extremely emotional, we would just say, hey, budget, and you'll do better with money. Save more money, and everybody would be doing it. It's not that easy. We all have different money stories, so it's important for me to identify what that looks like in practice to be able to serve individuals on the level that they needed me. I always say the Finance Bar meets people where they are on their journey, and that's exactly what I'm committed to.
And everyone is somewhere on a different spectrum on that journey.
Yes, absolutely.
All right,
Yes.
well, on that note, we are going to take a very quick break. We'll be right back. So, Marsha, I feel like you are the perfect guest to have on Side Hustle because you started off with a side hustle that became your career, but also you are a financial expert. And I know that the majority of Americans that take on a side hustle do it so that they can pay their bills.
Yes.
The number one reason. How often do you have a client come in and say to you, look, I'd really love to have extra money to make on the side on top of my job just in order to help pay my bills?
Yeah. I always give a suggestion of identifying what are you good at? Some people just love kids. So maybe why not be a nanny? Or some people, their profession may be in teaching, an educator. Okay, so why not become a tutor on the side? All of these skills that people need someone to have, it's just being willing to capitalize on that. Oftentimes, we're just very conditioned to work our job. And we never think outside of that. We never think like, how can we bring in more money? And if that doesn't work for you, take your time to try to figure it out. And if you want to just get a part-time job that you don't love so much, then take it until you figure out what you're extremely passionate about that may feel like work on some days, but it comes natural to you. We sometimes just don't tap into that. It could be reasons because we're just burnt out from our job, so we don't want to do extra. But there are always ways to make extra money. I tell my son all the time that when I was young, to have a part-time job was the thing. Like that, you were very important if you had a job after school. Whereas now many people, they shun part-time jobs. It's like you don't, 2 jobs are for 2 people. But we understand that with inflation and the cost of living, it's almost not even optional now. It's almost mandatory because sometimes salaries are just not keeping up with the pace of inflation. So for many people, it's no longer an option. It's like, I have to have this money to be able to survive and save because the income I'm currently making is just not doing it for me right now.
Yeah, I feel like we're seeing that a lot in society right now. Okay, so you started the Finance Bar while you were still working in corporate America. What was it like navigating starting a side hustle, working in corporate America? I could imagine not every company would be on board or really excited that their employee is taking on a side hustle. Were there any obstacles or pushback with that?
Oh, yeah. They were very excited at first. Like so excited that I remember when I got my first news feature, it was huge. I was like an entire spread on me. I remember, very similar to this, our company had where they could have employees that they would feature. They called me and they were like, oh my God, we saw your article. We want to feature you. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so excited because now my company wants to feature me. And I kid you not, it hadn't even been a day that went by. And HR was calling me like, hey, we heard about the Finance Bar. We love what you're doing, but what is this? We want to make sure that there's no conflict of interest. You're in learning and development, great. We want to make sure that you're not taking clients. At the time, I'm like, what clients? Because we're teaching internal learning and development. And they were, kind of on board at first, but I felt the difference. I could feel the difference because please understand that I got very busy. Like we're talking major news articles, major conferences that I was speaking at. People were talking about it. You could easily Google me and find me. So HR kept coming to me periodically. Can we see what you're doing? Can you bring in some of the workbooks from your members club? Can we see the material? My assumption, like looking back, is that we're making sure you're not taking proprietary information from the company, which I still really don't understand, to be honest, because we're teaching, and this is not personal finance. I'm teaching in learning and development. I'm teaching someone how to do their job at the company. So I can understand now, though, right, how it would look because it's finance and it's a bank. So at some point, it felt like I needed to make a decision before they pushed me out. And I decided that I'm just going to see my way out. I was making enough money from the finance bar at the time. It wasn't a ton, but it was enough money to match my salary at the bank. And then I put my notice in. I'll never forget it, because as of this taping, I'll never forget it was around the end of the year. And I remember being excited that I didn't have to go to that job during the holidays. So I quit like right around the holiday time, and I just decided, that I was gonna venture into the finance bar full time, go along with it, and I wasn't scared when I left. And so that's how I knew that I was doing the right thing at the moment. And what's even funnier now looking back is the same bank became a client at the finance bar for me to be able to create campaigns for them.
Wow.
So I knew that I made the right decision, but I definitely understand. There was no anger in being mad at them, because I understand what that look of that could have been. Yeah, so it was the right decision.
So I could imagine with side hustles they're just growing in popularity.
Yeah.
I could imagine more people, maybe viewers who are looking to get into a side hustle, could also face this with a company, no matter what industry they're in, right?
That's right.
Is there a golden rule or advice that you have for if someone is about to take that step?
Yeah.
Side hustle or my consistent salary job. Do you have any kind of advice for how much of a safety net or how much should your side hustle be bringing in order to kind of take that jump?
I would say for me, the advice would be the same advice I follow for myself, even though I felt like it happened randomly, to at least try to earn as much as your company pays you. And I don't say that from like, make sure you have insurance, but because we base how we live based on our net income. That's the money that we see in our account when we get paid. Make sure you're making at least that amount of money consistently and through a year, because oftentimes we do well in business during seasons. I'm talking like no matter what happens throughout the year, you're consistently making that. Also, make sure you have a viable business model. Some things are trendy. Some things are just trendy, and it will last for a season, but it's not a viable business model. I knew that finances were not going away. People always needed help with finances, but I also understood the gap that the finance bar filled for those that are listening is there are financial advisors that you have to have a certain amount of money to work with them, or at least in assets. And if you don't have that, the only thing they're going to offer you is a life insurance policy, right? And then there are banks. Banks may be able to house your money. You can get products and services for them, but they may not be teaching. They may be teaching financial education, absolutely, but it's not going to be someone that's going to hold your hand through it. They're definitely not going to go emotional on you. It's going to be all about the dollars and cents. So it's very important that you have a viable business model that is not trendy. But then I would also say, try to make sure you at least have some reserves saved up for those rainy days, because it happens in business. There's always something you have to pay for. There's always a moment where business could be low each month, or inflation spikes, the economy changes, and you need to fill in those gaps. So I would say at minimum, have at least 6 months of income reserves stored somewhere if you have to pull it from it. I would say those are the 3 golden rules.
And you said that you were not scared to do this. You kind of knew it. I could imagine that fear has prevented a lot of people from doing this. Yeah.
Yeah. Fear has prevented a lot of people from just trying.
Yeah.
That's the challenge. But also, it's not just fear that prevents people from trying. It's time. Many people are time poor. When you leave a job, you just don't have the time capacity to think of anything. I was working late nights. When I left the bank, I would come home and immediately start working the finance bar. I had ideas about the bus. And once the bus got outfitted, I was extremely excited. So whether it was the morning before I went to the bank or after work and on weekends, I would be telling someone a fib to say it's not going to take every ounce of you, because it absolutely is going to take every piece of you. But the reward on that on the other side, I can share definitely that it was well worth it. And even if it doesn't work immediately, you have money flowing in as a second stream of income that you're constantly building on. That's the goal. So maybe if you're not making enough money as of yet to quit your 9 to 5, you're constantly stacking. I look at it as if you're building a home. You first have framework, and then you're building it. but you definitely have to start. But many people, I would say, when you leave your job, you just want to have a good time. You want to relax, but it's going to require that you clock out of one job and tap into another one.
Yeah,
In
almost
order
ramp it up.
You have to ramp it up. You have to take a break and keep going because it's not, you don't, that saying that if you build it, they will come is totally a story. That's not the truth at all. If you build it and you're consistent, maybe they will come, but you have to be the front runner to be willing to do that work.
All right. Well, thank you. We'll be right back. It's our last break. So I know you usually charge for financial advice, but I feel like if we have you on here, we have to talk about, what you know. What are some of the biggest misconceptions that you think people have about money?
I think the biggest misconception is I don't have time to budget. I think a misconception is I don't have any money to save. I think another one is money is boring, when really it just provides you with a pathway. It's a map for you. A lot of financial anxiety comes from the simple fact that you don't know your numbers because we hide from them. I'll tell a quick story about myself. I remember saying to myself, if I ever wanted to do anything beyond finance at the bank, it would be a librarian. But what I've come to understand is that librarians don't make a lot of money. But oftentimes we're just seeking other positions for higher income. I'm not that type of person. I'm the type of person that I love to be happy in the work that I do. I like to find joy there. So I think another misconception is that we should always be focused on making more money, getting higher titles to make more money, when really what we should be focusing on is our values, our value-based system. Are we making enough money to take care of ourselves and to be able to enjoy life? Not the things that we like to have and just like to do, but things that we love to have and love to do. So the misconception, biggest one, is that I don't need to budget. Every place budgets. Big companies budget, small companies budget, government budgets. That's how everyone stays in alignment. So it's so extremely important to know your numbers because that is your pathway that tells you I'm making enough money, I'm doing well. Oh, I'm not making enough money to sustain my lifestyle. I need to figure out a different way so that I feel financially confident. When you're not financially confident or financial anxiety rolls around, that also could lead into depression.
Yeah.
Really bad.
And I feel like to add to that, in this year, 2025, I still feel like talking about finances, talking about money is still taboo for a lot of people. Do you think that kind of creates the space where people are struggling silently?
Yes, because shame sets in. Because even though many of us were not taught about money, you either have money or you don't have money. So money sometimes makes us feel like we have power. Titles at jobs makes us feel like we have power. So we can just all pretend like we just all have power and ignore the obvious, so we go home and we suffer in silence. That's why it's so taboo, because no one's willing to start the conversation in their friend circles or family circles. Many people somebody has to start the conversation. So it's taboo only because we don't talk about it or because we only talk about it at certain times during the year. The new year, everyone's excited about their goals. Our birthdays, how can I do better? Financial Literacy Month in April, Financial Awareness Day in August, and then topic goes away. When we get paid, many of us every month, every week, bi-weekly, look how much we get paid, but look at the comparison of how much we actually talk about money, when it should be talked about just as much as we talk about our health, mental health, and anything else.
And as someone who covers the economy, I know just from the reports and studies that I analyze that the majority of Americans are struggling right now. We know housing prices are up, daycare costs, food costs. As a financial expert, I mean, how do you navigate your job in a time like this where the economy is uncertain? Does that add another layer to your job?
Oh, yeah, it definitely adds another layer because the financial anxiety heightens. Everyone wants to stop doing everything because they're afraid of job loss, or they're afraid they may have to help someone else.
Like stop investing.
Stop investing, stop saving. Pull money from a 401k. Don't trust your money to be into a retirement account right now. Worry about that later. So everyone, the heightened it tenses up. So as my job is to try to turn down the volume on the temperature, because even though it's the economy now, there's always something. A few years ago, there was the pandemic.
Yeah.
Before that, many people talked about another recession. So it's staying the course along the way. It's the most important part, and not getting comfortable to say, oh, I can do a little bit more now because the economy is better. There are switches every few years if people go and look back. Every few years, there's something, but staying the course, whether it's saving, stay the course consistently, no matter how small it is. Investing, same thing. And in lifestyle inflation, if you make more, you save it
I
for
feel
the
like
future.
that is a big point.
It's
Yep.
huge. Lifestyle inflation is huge. If you make more money, I need a new car.
A
I
bigger
was-
house.
a bigger house. You know, you want something bigger to match whatever salary that you have, when really it's okay for us to just stay still with what we have, appreciate what we have, and utilize that extra money for the future in moments like the economy was happening.
So you started the Finance Bar in 2014.
Yes, ma'am.
Going on 12 years.
Yes.
What is the future for you?
Oh, the future is, for me, what it's always been is to pass it over to my son, Travis, for him to have ownership. That's what legacy looks like for me. So he's not starting at the bottom trying to build something. And if he chooses to have it because it wasn't his dream, it was my dream, he can keep it or he can sell it off. But I definitely want him to be able to have something that he can build, to be able to, as I mentioned, expand on income streams for him. That's what the future definitely holds.
Any plans for more buses?
Maybe I get asked that all the time to franchise the bus. So, it's all possible. It's definitely all possible. I think we're excited about the membership expansion because it gives people a pathway for it.
Mm-hmm.
It gives people access to not have to invest into financial therapy until they can afford it. But a lot of people just need accountability right now.
Mm-hmm.
They need someone to ask questions to, someone to be in community with them, with people that are having the conversations around money. People are just looking for someone that's like-minded to have this conversation with, even if it's not their friends.
And how can people contact you?
TheFinanceBar.com is our website. Everywhere on social media at The Finance Bar, and you can find us there.
Well, thank you so much, Marsha.
Thank you
You
for
were
having me.
fantastic. It's been great speaking with you.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for watching Side Hustle. We'll be back next week.
Full icon energy, working the angles 1, 2, 3. You got that look to a T. Full icon energy 1, 2, 3.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.